we are going to talk football transfers. Very pleased to say that talkSPORT'S chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, has joined us. Now, if you weren't with us at the start of the show, you won't understand why Ronan Keating has suddenly appeared. But Alex was part of the talkSPORT golfing trip recently that included more than just golf. Alex, how are you feeling, by the way?
I'm feeling fine. I've just completed 5 days at glorious Goodwood on the back of that golf trip, so all is well.
Not what your doctor would have ordered. He
had 35 days in Germany as well.
Yes, I know. Just join Ronan here, if you don't mind. I believe this is your party piece.
Come on, Cookie.
I'm not going to inflict that on the listeners, but Scott Minto, I'm sure, has the video.
When you say nothing at all.
A lot of people have been saying that, Alex. You say it best when you say nothing at all. But we want you.
He wasn't that shy, Marcus, when he's on stage, let me tell you.
I need to see some of the video
I'll show you in the break.
We want to hear your thoughts on some of these stories that are ruminating at the moment. And Scott mentioned that West Ham are doing good business. Now, Niclas Füllkrug would be a very exciting signing, would he not?
I think he would. When you look at what he did for Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League last season, I was really impressed with him whenever he came off the bench in Germany as well. I think there was an argument by the end of the tournament that maybe he should have been starting ahead of Kai Havertz, and maybe Germany may have gone a bit further. So as you say, I think West Ham fans can be cautiously optimistic about this signing. £27 million, all in the fee. His medical has started, so too as that of the midfielder Guido Rodriguez. He's available on a free transfer. I'm not expecting any official confirmation from West Ham today. I think the second part of those medicals will take place tomorrow, but both those deals should get done. And they've not completely given up yet on John Duran at Aston Villa either, despite the fact they've so far not been able to agree a fee. So keep an eye on that one. And Aaron Wan-Bissaka, I think that will happen as well, swapping Manchester United for the London Stadium. So quietly, I think Lopetegui is assembling a squad that can certainly challenge in the top half of the table next season, and maybe even for another European place.
Crookie, any latest on Conor Gallagher and his future, and perhaps even someone as a replacement, another person brought in?
Well, the last I heard was that talks continuing between Chelsea and Conor Gallagher to try and draw a line under what I think has become a bit of a saga, really. We led the charge with a story that a fee had been agreed between Chelsea and Atletico Madrid for a player who captained them on a number of occasions last season. Then we broke exclusively the news that he'd been told if he didn't make the move, he wouldn't be part of the first team picture at Chelsea when the rest of his teammates who hadn't gone so far in the Euros returned to Cobham, their training ground, on Wednesday. So there is a bit of a standoff. Atletico, I'm told, are relaxed about the situation at this moment in time. But it is up to the player. He's only got a year left on his contract. If he decides not to move, then Chelsea have got a situation where they could possibly risk losing him on a free next summer. They don't want that to happen, which is why they're taking such drastic action to try and ensure this move does go through. Incidentally, Trevor Chalobah as well, I think, will find himself training away from the rest of the first team. Of course, he was left out of the US tour as they try and sell him. And one potential replacement is the Celtic midfielder Matt O'Reilly. He's attracting plenty of interest this summer from abroad, from Southampton, just promoted to the Premier League. But I'm not sure, Scott Minto, that many Chelsea fans would swap Conor Gallagher for Matt O'Reilly.
No, spot on.
Yeah. Mikel Merino being strongly linked with the move to Arsenal, which, based on what he's been doing in Spain over the past few years, looks to be good business. I'm intrigued as to why his time at Newcastle was cut short. I know he was injured that season, but should there be one or two question marks next to his name as a result of his previous adventure in the Premier League?
Potentially, although speaking to a couple of Newcastle fans over the weekend, they were saying actually he looked quite a good player in a poor Newcastle team. He was obviously recruited by Rafa Benitez, so you had the Spanish link there, much like you have with Mikel Arteta. But I understand why you're asking the question. Clearly, he's a good player. He's proven that with what he's done since he left Newcastle and being part of that Spain team that won the Euros. But some players just aren't suited to the Premier League. I guess Mikel Arteta will be hoping that he's gone away and developed and they'll see the best of him, Arsenal, because I do expect this deal to happen. Still pretty quiet in terms of a striker. We know there was a bit of interest earlier in the window in Julen Alvarez, but it looks like Atletico Madrid are leading the charge for him. And I just wonder, as close as they've come to knocking Manchester City off their perch in the last couple of seasons, could that lack of a number 9, if they don't sign one between now and the end of the window, come back to haunt them again?
Yeah, that's something that we were musing on. Scott, something else intriguing me, and it's, Mark Gahey is originally being linked with the move to Newcastle, now to Liverpool, the club you once supported before you just turned your back
you avoid a Mark
on them.
Honestly, come on.
And there's talk that Anthony Gordon might be going to Liverpool as well. All these sort of speculative stories at the moment, Crook. We're only 2 weeks away from the start of the season now. So is your hunch that these stories that have rumbled for a while will reach a conclusion sooner rather than later? Or are we going to go right to the end of August before the big business is concluded?
I think we could see quite a frantic finale to this window, because it's almost 2 windows for the price of one this summer. You had the PSR deadline at the end of June when clubs were scrambling around to sell players. Newcastle were active then, so were Everton, so were Villa, and so would Chelsea. And then it was almost like a reset, and they went again, obviously with the next set of PSR restrictions still very much at the forefront of their minds. Then we had the European Championships when business slowed down a bit. Obviously we've had these pre-season tours. A lot of Premier League clubs have jetted off to far-flung destinations. That makes medicals, etc., a bit more difficult. So I think we might see it ramp up even after the first ball has been kicked in a couple of weeks' time. In terms of Anthony Gordon, I think there's pressure on Newcastle to get him to sign a new contract. He's only got 2 years left on his deal. That interest from Liverpool is genuine. In fact, I think there was one stage in June when it looked likely that he could well swap St James's Park for Anfield. So I think Newcastle fans will be aware and slightly concerned about that situation. Does look as if Newcastle are growing in confidence when it comes to Mark Gahey. I just wondered if there would be more suitors that came out of the woodwork once we heard about the fact that Newcastle were in talks. At the moment, it doesn't appear that way. Certainly Liverpool have been mentioned, I understand, aren't exploring a deal for Mark Gahey. I'm not sure that Manchester United could afford to meet Palace's asking price, which is well north of £60 million. And this would be a big move for Newcastle, because there's a perception that they are cash rich. They are, of course, in terms of who their owners are. But when it comes to PSR, they're having to toe the line as much as anybody.
So, Crookie, just on that then, with Mark Gahey, I mean, we spoke in the Euro All Access podcast, and we're doing the Premier League one on Wednesday, aren't we? I thought that he would step in for Harry Maguire and do a very, very good job, and clearly he did. Would Newcastle, if they were willing to spend it, are they in a position then, from a PSR point of view, that it'd have to sell?
I think there's certain players that they are willing to sell. Miggy Almiron is certainly one of those, and I know they're hoping that the Saudi clubs show the same interest they did in the January window. I think Callum Wilson, mainly because of his injury record and the fact he's on decent wages, is somebody else they would be willing to offload. And there was a time when West Ham was showing interest in him. You've got the likes of Sean Longstaff, who I know Everton have long-standing interest for, and even Ryan Fraser, who's in a little bit of his own Conor Gallagher situation, in that he's training with the under-21s. Clearly isn't part of the furniture there. Eddie Howe has made that pretty clear, but he won't go unless his contract is paid up, because he's on a very lucrative wage. He's got a year left. While he has an offer from Southampton, he would have to take a big pay cut in order to make that move. And we saw with Harry Maguire last summer when West Ham came calling and had agreed a fee. The reason that move collapsed is because he wasn't willing to take a pay cut, and Manchester United weren't willing to top up his wages. I think Newcastle might have to in order to get Ryan Fraser off the books.
One more before we get a bit of you and Ronan Keating again. Mazraoui to Manchester United. That's been, burbling on for a little. A very talented fullback. Do you see that deal happening sooner rather than later?
Well, this is one of those domino deals, in that once Aaron Wan-Bissaka has agreed terms and United have agreed a fee for West Ham, that will free them up to sign Mazraoui. And they're still keen on De Ligt as well, who's a name that seems to get attached to Manchester United every window, certainly every window since Erik ten Hag has been in situ. But they do need another central defender. They needed one anyway, even before Lenny Yoro picked up that foot injury that we know is going to rule him out for the first 3 months of the season, which is a big blow for a very talented young player. So it is possible, more than possible, that they sign both Mazraoui and De Ligt.
Good stuff. Alex, thank you very much. Right, let's hear this voice of yours. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Can we get Ronan to give him a come? Here we go. Come on, Crookie. Come on, Crookie.
What I hear when you don't say a thing.
Don't be shy,
so
Crookie.
Backwards.
Come on. You weren't last week.
The smile on your face.
Well, this is Crookie, apparently.
Lets me know that you need me. There's a truth in your eyes saying you'll never leave me.
The touch of your hand says you'll catch me wherever.
Yeah, I think that is enough of that.
This is his bit now. This is his bit.
Go on.
You say it best when you say nothing at all.
No wonder he's banned from every bar in Tenerife.
Brilliant,
stuff.
brilliant.
Thank you very much. That's,
Every group needs a crookie, let me tell you. I can say that with experience. 5 days of crookie was brilliant.
He's actually got a decent voice as well. Thanks to Alex Crook, talkSPORT'S chief football correspondent.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.